Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this professional learning opportunity, Integrating the Arts into the Elementary Classroom, Part 1, Benefits and Beach Balls. I am Bailey Cornelius, the Digital Project Coordinator at NCEA, and I will be facilitating this webinar today. A few housekeeping notes as people are joining. We will be recording this session today, and if you have questions during the presentation, feel free to use the Q&A window. We'll monitor any questions and try to answer them all in the allotted time. At the end of the session, I will share a link to the online survey in the chat and instructions on how to receive a certificate of completion for this webinar. Today's presenters are Dr. Jean Hearn and Dr. Carin Applegate. Dr. Hearn is an Associate Professor of Education and Director of Elementary Education, Early Childhood Program, and chaired the Education Department at Creighton University. She completed her undergraduate work at the University of Georgia, her Master of Science in Education at the University of Omaha, and her doctoral work at Creighton University and the Doctor of Interdisciplinary Educational Leadership. Dr. Hearn has spent much of her career teaching in both public and Catholic elementary schools. Currently, she teaches both early childhood and elementary education method courses. Her passion lies in arts integration, early childhood education, and teacher retention, all of which inspire much of her research. Carin Applegate is an associate professor and elementary education program director in the Department of Education at Creighton University. She's a classroom teacher for 15 years before earning her PhD at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Her research focuses on literacy methods for elementary pre-service teachers, racial literacy, and culturally responsive sustaining pedagogy. She enjoys trying new recipes, growing plants, and spending time with her husband and 8 mostly grown children. Before I turn it over to our presenters, let us begin in prayer. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Father, thank you for all those men and women who have given their talents to educating our young people. Through the challenges they encounter each day, lead them to an ever deeper appreciation of the sacred duty to which you have called them. May they be people of integrity so that they can be witnesses as well as teachers. We pray that the schools they lead will become places where our young people can experience your love in their lives. Thank you for our Catholic schools. Help us to pray without ceasing, to work without wavering, and to give without grudging in order to ensure the future of Catholic education for all of our children. We make this prayer through your Son, Jesus Christ, our teacher and our Lord. Amen. And now I will turn it over to Dr. Applegate and Dr. Hearn.
Thank you, Bailey. We're excited to be here today. I am Carin, and this is my friend Jean, and we are excited to talk to you about integrating the arts into the classroom, benefits and beach balls. We are looking forward to this time together, whether you are joining us live or watching this recording later. Thank you for coming to hear what we have to say. Okay, we'll get started. Here we are. So today our primary goals are we're going to discuss student engagement in the arts and explore the ways teaching with the arts contributes to cura personalis, or care for the whole person, learn about the benefits of integrating arts for the brain and what research has to say about it. And we'll touch on engaging all of the senses in learning in our classrooms, and hopefully send you away with a few ideas that you can incorporate into your classrooms tomorrow.
So while we're getting started, what we kind of like to do is maybe a little sales pitch to let you know how important or why we should do this. We have a lot of reasons coming up, but one of the biggest reasons is that as a classroom teacher, we are short on time, as we know, and we have this big responsibility and a very limited time to do it. So here's just a little bit of math: 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, 32 weeks a year. That's what you have your children with. I would say 960 hours a year. So that's a tremendous amount of time. It's really dizzying if you think about it. We are tasked with creating lessons as teachers for language arts, math, science, social studies, health, technology, physical education, art and music, and sometimes all of that in one day. So our idea here is to really do some integration where we can integrate some of those together, but also integrating the arts into those to help us save time. But one of the things that we often forget or we don't forget, I think we do teach this, but we don't really think about it as subject areas, are the social emotional skills, the executive functions, and citizenship. And a lot of research tells us that when we integrate the arts into our curriculums on a daily basis, we are actually going to be adding these things in. And it is an amazing way to get those into our content areas without even really trying.
Yeah.
So, and down here, our scholars often argue that education without the arts is bankrupt, and they're thinking that that leads to the weakening of our society. And I would have to agree, as an early childhood teacher, that those things are terribly important.
Yes, not to mention it can just make learning math, learning science, learning to read more fun and engaging. Yeah.
So we know that teachers aren't just satisfied preparing our students to be members of society. Instead, we really want to prepare our students to have this quality of life, these quality relationships, rewarding jobs, a deep desire to help each other, really to be productive members of society. And again, when we integrate the arts into our content area on a daily basis, this kind of comes without even trying.
Yeah. Okay, so today we're going to talk about integrating the arts into your content areas, because it will help us create fertile ground for imagination and creativity, which we really want to develop more in our classrooms and give our students the time to explore that, explore new ideas, generate original solutions, extend beyond the arts so that we can problem solve, innovate, be self-expressive across subject areas. And those are all real personal qualities and characteristics that children have uniquely and are demonstrated differently in a classroom. And I think the more opportunities we give children to hear one another talk, speak, listen, think differently, the more accepting they are of different points of view and value that diversity in our society. Yeah.
Well, and also this idea of creative and critical thinking is something that employers are looking for. We've seen a lot of research as we're in this higher ed preparing our students to go out and get jobs. And one of the things that we have heard from the folks who are actually hiring our people is that they are looking beyond anything else for creative thinking and critical thinking
Yes.
skills, problem solving.
Yes. Okay, so here's a little more about creativity, critical thinking, and problem solving. I think this is Eugene.
Well, okay. So I think that when we're looking at this idea of creative and critical thinking, we are thinking of artistic things that our students can do. And these, when you do art, you're actually thinking, you're experimenting, you're trying different iterations, you're actually working through creative problem solving. This is not good, I want to try this. And all of this really does require these critical thinking skills to get moving. And the other thing that it does is it gives us some resilience, because sometimes we aren't doing exactly what we had hoped. It doesn't come out exactly like we want it to, but try again, allowing our students the safety to do that. And when we do this in the classroom on a daily basis, they do have that safe feeling that they can make a mistake and try again.
Yeah, and I like what you said about iterations. I think in the most basic sense of art, if we're just thinking of a clay pot,
right.
You do different iterations. You learn, you get a little better each time. Anyone who's done pottery or tried to make a pot, it does take some resilience, and it looks like it might be simple, and it's really not. And we want to help our students stick with something and see it through. And they feel sometimes safer doing that in the arts because everybody's a little vulnerable. Everybody's kind of getting out of their box and trying. And the more often that they experience success in being able to stick with something and be okay with it kind of flopping and moving on to try again, that can really transfer over into so many other areas that makes them better suited to handle life when it comes and it isn't exactly like they planned. So So let's stop wasting precious time and work to engage our students. Here we go with some ideas.
So what does engagement actually mean? And what does that look like? In the classroom, our students are engaged they're very motivated. They love what they're doing. So they're finding what they're doing alluring. They want to keep going with that. And they want to persevere no matter what kind of roadblocks they have. And the arts is one way to get this engagement into our classrooms.
And we've both talked about engagement is important whether you're working with preschoolers, third graders, high schoolers, college students, or adults. Yeah.
Right.
So now we want to talk about how integrating the arts into the classroom fits into the Catholic construct, because as Catholic teachers, we have a really unique and special calling to introduce our students to the world with a Catholic lens often, and arts are a fantastic way to do that. And we are called to think about cura personalis, meeting the needs of the whole child, because we are there as Catholic teachers to meet the needs of the child in all of their diverse ways. And I have this quote here from the Vatican Congregation for Catholic Education. And they're saying that, you know, a Catholic education is one that is sound and open. It pulls down the walls of exclusivity, promoting the richness and diversity of individual talents, and extending the classroom to embrace every corner of social experience in which education can generate solidarity, sharing, and communion. And those are really big goals, but the words that especially are in color there, we think about richness, diversity, talent, extending the classroom. All of these things really could also define the arts, integrating the arts.
They absolutely do. And the idea of cura personalis, this educating the whole person, is really special because each person is unique and special, and everyone has different gifts. They all they have many gifts, but some come forward a little bit more than others. They take in information differently, and they output information differently for that matter. And the arts let us do that. And teachers can also share wisdom and information with students in a different way. And that's why we're really advocating for the arts, because this gives us that different venue, a different way to get to our students.
Yeah, that's great. I have a quick story about a time when I was teaching fifth grade and we were doing a play for James and the Giant Peach. And I had a young student who was engaged in class, but kind of quiet, and really didn't stand out as a reader. And math was a real sticky area for him. He spent a lot of time worried about math. He really found it difficult. And we did this play, and he said he wanted to be the part of, I think it was the caterpillar. And I and everyone in the class was completely blown away, because in this moment, he came out of his shell, and all the say cocoon, and just blew us away. He used a different voice. He had these huge gregarious mannerisms, and everybody was just like, oh my gosh, we discovered Danny in that play. So the arts really brought out another side of him that I would not have seen in reading and math and science, because he was just, being a student was hard for him.
Wow. And did it make a difference later on?
Oh my gosh. Everybody socially, it made a difference, and it helped him share a little more in class. He kind of discovered this other side of himself. His parents, said they went down and signed him up for the youth classes in the summer at this community theater center. It was just a whole new thing. So, okay. So here's our first, we have these little light bulbs in our slides as we go, and these are ideas, things you can take to the classroom. And here's the first one that we have. Jean, do you want to talk about our toss and talk?
Well, as we are getting to know each of our children as individuals, sometimes at the beginning of the year, that can be a little more daunting. And so here's this idea. So we bring beach balls throughout our little program here, because both of us used beach balls, both in our classroom when we were
with college students,
but we also we use them now. And beach balls are pretty amazing. They're cheap, for one thing. You can get them in big packs at Amazon or at the dollar store. And I when we practice this, I've brought us a new idea. So you can take clear tape, and if you don't want to have to write on your beach ball and throw it away or use it, save 100 of them because you got lots of different things you're going to use them for, you can actually write on the clear tape and then peel it off. So that's kind of an idea if you want to be thrifty, really thrifty.
Just want a few.
Right.
You just change the messages.
Yes. So
Okay.
so this is one where you actually write messages on it and toss it around, and you are asking the children personal questions, and you can put whatever age group kind of questions you want to, whatever kind of things you're trying to find out about your students. So you throw the beach ball and they catch it wherever their thumbs hit. That is what the question they need to answer.
Okay. So the arts area we're looking at here is movement.
Right.
Yeah, just moving around. You can catch it different ways and catch and freeze, all kinds of fun things.
Which brings us to, we probably should talk about what the arts are.
Yeah, why don't you just tell us that?
Yeah.
The arts are.
So we're talking about visual arts, so painting, pottery, drawing, that kind of thing, which is what we mostly think of as art, I think, quite often.
That's what comes to mind.
Yeah, music, and there's all different ways to produce and listen to music, but also drama and storytelling. And then we've got dance, which is a kind of movement, but also movement in general, just moving around, because that has a lot to do with the brain, which we'll talk about later. All right, so now that we've gotten that part, sorry about that.
No, that's good.
Now that we've got that part, we want to talk to you a little bit more about this idea of cura personalis and how each child is different. And I know many of us have heard of Howard Gardner, but this idea of multiple intelligence is really a way that we can get to know our students and some of their talents and gifts. Now, everybody has probably many talents. Some, though, are stronger than others. And people show connections between the gifts, between intelligences in a lot of different ways, which is where these arts come in. You can actually show your gifts in different ways. So they work together to make each person special and unique. And even though some children may prefer one over the other, it's really a good idea to get them doing all of them, because that makes a really well-rounded child. So we want our students we want to teach through the arts and through these different gifts and intelligences, but we also want to teach so that they get more strengths in them.
Yeah.
So we want to do both.
Yeah.
And you can actually, kind of fun, you can go in and find a lot of in Google, just Google multiple intelligence quizzes, but you can take them yourself, but they have ones for children, and it's kind of fun to see what your children, where their talents lie.
It's really important to clarify for kids that isn't the way that they learn, which it seems to be a misconception about. It is just a preferred modality of showing what they know,
right,
or a comfort sometimes. So we want to spread that out. Okay, we have a quick video coming up here, because what we're going to talk about next is how the arts can stimulate interest in a content area by pairing with a student's dominant intelligence, a way that they like to show what they know. So this video here is going to show us a provocation.
There you go, that word.
That is a fancy word for a stimulus or a seed of curiosity for students, to show them something that gets them thinking and questioning and makes them want to learn more. So a provocation is a small activity that leads to bigger questions and inquiry. So here we go. We're going to show this.
It's quick.
It's quick. I'm going to pause it for a minute so it doesn't start quite yet.
Okay, welcome to the lab today. Today we're going to have a look at our spinning snake. Here we go. That's our convection current, and we can see our spin. Where are the changes of energy happening? Okay, welcome to the lab today. Today we're going to have a...
Yeah, that was really quick. But you mentioned this is a piece of art.
Yes.
This is art, and there are some art displays. Here at the Jocelyn, we have one that looks kind of like this, and kids go back to their classrooms and make it by cutting up water bottles and painting them, and they're all spirals. I can't remember the name of the artist. I should have looked that up. But so that's a provocation, and you can talk a little bit about what comes next.
And I love this idea of the provocation. I love using art This one takes us to science.
Mhm.
But I also think this is kind of important because we often think that arts are for younger children, and this actually shows us that we can use those in the classroom for children or for students that are much older as well. So that makes me pretty excited,
Yeah.
especially because we do it in our college
Sure.
classrooms.
So we've talked a lot about multiple intelligences, and now we're just going to quick run through one more way it's connected to cure personalis is the learning modalities.
Right. And this is the acronym. We use acronyms for everything. So sorry about that. But we have this visual, auditory, reading and writing, and kinesthetic, these kind of modalities. You know, we always say, I'm an auditory learner, I'm a visual learner. And the arts are a really good way to get students working through and with those. So visual arts, is the V, obvious, then drama and movement. Then we've got the auditory, which comes through music and drama and storytelling and poetry, and R, the reading, writing, again, through drama, music, storytelling, and poetry, and then the kinesthetic through the movement, visual arts, music, and drama. And they all, you can see, they kind of overlap. So there's a lot of overlap, but those are the different modalities. We don't want to just focus in on just one modality, though. It's really important to know that we should have our students using all of their modalities. So if they're really strong in one, we should maybe focus on getting the strengths in the other area.
Yeah, and it's kind of a good check just to stop. I assume most of the people attending our webinar are teachers, and you taught today. So think back over the day and how often were children able to move or listen to music or do some storytelling. Just think about the opportunities in a day for those things. And chances are you did some of those, maybe without even thinking. So we're just really here to say, pay attention to those moments and try and explode them a little bit in your classrooms. So,
Absolutely. And then here's
we
just
kinda
some more
covered the-
examples. Yeah, we did cover that, but some ideas for you in the classroom.
Yep.
Go on. All right. So we are, as we just talked about this too. See, we're ahead of ourselves.
We are.
We want to go for that multimodal learning, which means that we want to cross over and not just stick with one. And here's a video that kind of gives us a good idea of what this might look like. It's actually, we're going to kind of talk you through it a little because it's just music and reading.
Yeah,
So
I'll set it up a little bit. This is a group of, looks like maybe
third
or
grade,
fourth graders,
yeah,
third graders.
they're doing science. They're actually dancing science. But this, interestingly, this is not only did they make a dance to help them learn science and present that dance, but they also created this presentation.
Yes.
So that's another way to use the arts. So they created this, and you'll see it's very clever.
Yeah. So this is their multimedia presentation of what they did.
I love this. This brings in math too, which I talk about integrating over content areas.
Now you're going to see some of their responses to how they felt about doing this project.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which
Some of their quotes from kids.
pretty amazing. I mean, the integration here is so big. We've
We
got
did this
reading,
on a stage for parents.
Right.
I assume.
reading, writing. Then we've got all the social emotional benefits of performing in front of people, practicing cooperatively with their friends, plus all the content that they're learning.
I love that, brave and strong. Yeah, this is the vulnerability and the messing up and starting over.
Right, yeah.
Practice, importance of practice.
And supporting your friends through it.
And not giving up.
Right.
And amen to that one. Easier to learn. Right. Okay. So I will stop it there.
So that is just, we've got all this multimodal learning there, all of the modalities, actually, every single one in that, which ended up with a wonderful lesson, and the students will probably never forget that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so now we're talking about getting the senses involved to help us remember things. And we know this, things are so closely attached to our senses. You smell something and it reminds you of someone or a
Right.
time when you were younger. Those things happen all the time. And we know that we want to help students hang on to what they know by not giving it to them in just one form. If they
Right.
can move with it, see it in a different way, feel something tactile that goes with it. Visual, auditory, kinesthetic things make the new learning stick.
And you mentioned this, so we practiced this earlier, but she mentioned the word sticky notes, which I loved.
Oh yeah, because we are. Well, my brain is like sticky notes. I got things in there and some of them fly away sometimes, but we want those sticky notes to stick. And in the way that they stick best is if we give some new learning a place to live in the brain with something else.
Right.
So yes. It makes it easier for students to remember and recall later.
And I'm advocate for the arts. Boy, do the arts help you do that.
Yes.
So all these senses.
Yes. Now we're going to get into the senses. The first one is tactile, or things that we touch and feel. This is probably the one that we are most familiar with and easy to use in the elementary classroom. We've got things, Cuisinart rods and Rubik's, little, no, they're not called Rubik's cubes, little cubes that you stick together to make tens. Anything they can manipulate, letter tiles, those are kind of the basic ways, and we kind of want to expand out from there and think of other ways that we can integrate the arts. Writing letters in shaving cream in kindergarten, that's a good one. Interdisciplinary projects are great for this. We have another short video. And while you watch this, I want you to be thinking about in your own classrooms, if you're willing to share, you could type in the chat tactile example, something that you have kids do or an experience that they have that really engages their tactile sense.
Right.
We could maybe at the end of if we have time at the end, we'll share some of those because we know that there are some of you joining our video live that might have some good examples of this. So here we go. I love this. This is great. Okay.
Our expedition is about the physics of flight. The goal is for students to learn about how airplanes fly in the air. Our problem is people at the National Airport don't understand the physics of flight, even though they're about to get on planes. We're going to put up art at the airport so people can know what the four forces of flight are, like lift, gravity, thrust, and drag. Thinking about using our four forces, we can use paintbrushes. We can even do a little bit of pouring. So we begin with Jackson Pollock and some of his artwork. The kids realize pretty quickly that he's using the four forces. They see him using gravity and thrust and his really active style of painting, and they start trying it out.
What force will you be using as you're pouring? Gravity. So yeah, when you poured it, it didn't just go out into the air. Gravity put it down. That was gravity.
Jackson Pollock used forces like drag because when there was a big puddle of paint and some paint went through the big blob of paint, it slowed down because that blob of paint was bigger.
All right, good job. It's really just about making those abstract concepts concrete. What if we do a little bit of this?
I like art and science, so I'm doing two things I like to learn how something works.
Okay.
Okay, I
I-
love it.
I love that they brought in real artists. There's
Yeah.
so many things to love about this, but one of them is to kind of share with us that you can bring in really good artwork and use that in your classroom to inspire you. Also, I think it's just so fun to hear the excitement in those kids' voices. You can
Mhm.
just hear them learning,
Mhm.
and it's pretty amazing.
I'm not going to forget that definition of drag.
No,
You
me
know,
neither.
it
Me
helped
neither.
me.
And I
like
didn't
that.
know it.
You
To be
know,
honest,
no.
I'm one of those getting on the plane not knowing that he
No,
was
I just
talking
trust
about.
my pilot
Right.
knows. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Visual engagement. So visual engagement represents abstract ideas and make connect in a concrete way so you can see it and talk about things abstractly. You can interpret and look at visual literacy and aesthetic appreciation. I think this is especially helpful when you think about children who are young and beginning to understand the concepts in reading comprehension, for example, of inferring and
Right.
predicting or sensing mood or theme. To begin some of those topics with art first, what is the artist trying to portray? How are they showing us? How do you, how does this painting make you feel? All those kinds of things. That language then transfers later into thinking about comprehension and an author's intent and in what ways are they giving us clues to character development, character mood and feeling and those kinds of things.
And we,
Yeah.
and in math, we do the same thing.
Yes.
It's the same kinds of things. You can use all of these different types of art to actually teach several different math
Mhm.
concepts.
And you have in here virtual field trips, which are ubiquitous now because you can get a virtual field trip of about any
Anywhere.
major, especially U.S. monument,
Right.
U.S. historic monument and museums. So you can really bring Washington, D.C. into your classroom in
Right.
Chicago or Omaha.
Right.
Yeah. And rural Nebraska, where we have many students from. Okay. And again, if you have an example of some way that you engage children visually, if you have a great field trip or something that they do to make something concrete, we'd love for you to type that in our chat so we can share those later.
Because we know you do.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely. All right. And so here is another example. Catholic art is a fantastic way to let children discuss and see things that are stories in the Bible that become so visual. And chances are, if you are teaching in a Catholic school, in a parish, you have a church in your building or across the
Right.
street and some amazing art to go and see. And it's a great way to help children discuss what they have learned. And the real nice thing about visual arts is that it doesn't matter what your reading level is, you can all access the same stories. And there's no right answer. There's ways to look at art, and everybody's point of view is valued. This is also a great opportunity for multicultural and global classroom experiences, because you can, for example, a simple example is to look at paintings of the Blessed Mother across the world from different nations, different
Yes.
countries, different time periods, and imagine what the painter and the artist at that time was how they are representing how the people saw the Blessed Mother in
Right.
their culture,
What their context
and what their
was.
context was, and the beauty of that, and the different representations of that. So that's just one idea to throw out there. That's
Look
that's
all the shapes.
truly, oh my gosh, there's so much to go.
Yeah.
Colors and shapes and how the shapes make, you
Yeah.
can see flow.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So now moving on to the auditory piece of this. So we have music, poetry, storytelling, and this idea of fostering the auditory perception, put in that sticky note onto some more. And this works towards language development, both expressive language development and also you can invite speakers in. There are performers you can go see, musicians. And this allows students to really experience a lot of different cultures, as we said, a lot of different things. So again, the sticky note of auditory. And here we have yet another example.
Given two sides, use the Pythagorean theorem you can find. The beat and the lyrics help the students understand and retain lessons in geometry, calculus, and more. Yo, looking for the C? This is where you find me. I am that side right across from the 90 degrees angle with the little square shaped like an L for the legs that are there.
Because part of what rap lyricists do is they paint pictures. So now that picture is being painted in a mathematical context. If we're given two legs, square them, add them, see what you get.
I know when I hear it in a song and I can put it to a tune, I get it like that and it just sticks.
And if you listen in the song, it says, in a right triangle given two sides.
It wants to make sure that everyone really retains the information, really understands the information.
And it's working.
And the formula is a squared plus b squared equals c squared.
I have not gotten less than a B on an exam when I had Michelle, I don't think. And it's just fantastic having that song as a tool ready to singing to myself while I do my test. So.
And again, I love this example because it shows us that we can touch more than just young children. This is also helps our upper grades access different content and remember it. Stick it in that sticky note back in their brain. I mean, how many remember all the states? Did you have that song?
Yes, and school, House of Rock, School Rock.
Junction, Lecture
all
Function.
those,
Yeah,
those are good. I was just visiting a junior level English course on campus this last week, and the instructor did something I loved. I'm going to steal this.
Okay, great.
Because good teachers share ideas, great teachers steal them.
Yeah,
That's what you do. So they had just finished a very short story, maybe 4 or 5 pages, pretty deep, a lot of content. And it was so funny. She put up on her screen, then she goes, oh my gosh, look everyone, we have a special visitor. And she flashed up a meme of Taylor Swift. And she said, Taylor Swift, what are you doing here? And she pretended like Taylor was in their class. And of course, even college kids are rolling their eyes a little bit, but they're kind of smiling. They kind of were getting into it. And their assignment that day was to get into small groups and think of the theme for that short story and find the lyrics in any Taylor Swift song that would represent and go with that theme.
Wow.
It was super fun. And they had to fight. So they had to, it's kind of unique. It kind of touched on some pop culture, but then they went and found a song that represented the theme of that story. So in other ways this could be used is, having students like, what song goes with fractions,
Right.
and not even just a learning song, but the mood of a
Right.
song or classical music can be used for that. If they make a picture, like, let's pick some music to go with your picture. What goes with that? So bringing things together that aren't normally together.
I had some students the other day in the class that actually talks about this particular content area. They're students who aren't education majors, but they did a lesson for our group and they used jingles to teach persuasion. So they gave them they talked about persuasion, how you might get to that. And then they had the groups developing little jingles. It was fun.
That's awesome. They made their own little commercial jingles.
Yes,
I
yeah.
love it. Okay. The last one we have here is smell and taste. That word gustatory is new for me. Thank you, Jean. So olfactory, I knew that, and gustatory, which is, of course, tasting. Culinary traditions, cultural cuisines, all of these foods. And the really important things to do here is, we don't want to flatten any culture down into its foods. But if we can explore and engage students in the curiosity for other cultures and acceptance of differences, that's such a beautiful thing to bring into the classroom, especially if you have a classroom that isn't necessarily multicultural.
Right.
I mean, depending on where you're teaching, the diversity levels may be greater or lesser in different places. But if you have families in the classroom who could share different cuisines or just things that are important to them in the meals in their family, meals for the holidays they celebrate. That would be wonderful. Another thing to do is to think about, each month of the year, finding different restaurants in your area and different kinds and letting kids explore the menus and maybe calling the restaurant and asking, hey, would you be able to drop off some, we would
Right.
love to have our children try this. That might be kind of fun. Incorporating cooking demonstrations. Here's math, Jean. I'm
Yeah,
looking
lots
at
of
Jean
math.
because she teaches math and science
Right.
methods. I'm the reading and writing methods person, but the cooking demonstrations, letting them measure and make things, taste testing, and just multi-sensory experiences. I know in a lot of grades, this can be a provocation
Yes.
to bake something or pop popcorn and look at all the think about the smells and the tastes and the textures and describe it in writing and kind of
Right.
encourage that.
Yeah.
So describing in this last point, describing and documenting sensory experiences is really parts the way that children are scientists.
Right.
It is their investigation that they're using to engage all those.
Well, and that brings me to the science notebook.
Yeah.
Where we can actually, that is a wonderful place for visual art. So you can draw all that you see and all that you are experiencing and write about it too.
Yeah.
So really engaging all the arts is
Yeah.
super, engaging all the senses
Yeah.
is would be a great way to get your students context. So
Yeah.
they have something to attach to what they're learning.
Absolutely. So we have some research to share here. First of all, there are benefits for social and emotional development. We know that arts integration helps students with managing emotions, coping with challenges, and fostering emotional resilience. And all of this because in the experiences of art, like we said before, there is some vulnerability and some ways, some opportunities to manage. What do you do when things don't go your way?
Right.
How do you respond? How do we, and practicing that in the integrating the
Getting
arts.
to resilience and grit.
Yeah.
I think something that is, I don't know, since COVID is we've been struggling with here at the university level.
Oh
I
yeah,
would say.
absolutely. It also fosters self-expression. This one's kind of self-explanatory, but no two works of art, if we're talking about the more traditional painting, drawing, sculpting, they no two look alike. And the same with making music or moving in dance. All of these things are unique and helps us appreciate the uniqueness of others.
Right.
And the connections between subject areas and the arts help reduce feelings of seclusion and separation for kids because it's community building. This is collaboration. A lot of things we do in the arts require, sharing with others and offering feedback with others.
Right. And looking at the different arts really does get to perspective taking too.
Mm-hmm.
You can take the perspective of somebody else.
Yes.
Which is pretty.
And I want to talk a minute on this last one. Integrating the arts offers an alternate way to communicate. And I would be remiss in not acknowledging that you may have students in your classroom with sensory disabilities or some other physical disabilities that perhaps they have their vision impaired or hearing impaired or have a paralysis or something so that they don't feel with their hands in the same way that their peers do. But that doesn't mean that all of these arts should be avoided for those students, but rather discovering the way that the arts are appreciated by those with disabilities and generally the really wonderful thing is if you have a disability in one area, it enhances the a sense in another. And so the other, it's fun if you invite someone into the classroom who is visually impaired and perhaps walks with a cane or has a seeing eye dog to let kids ask questions and see. So how do you hear things? I just heard this great, something new that they're doing in video gaming that young adults and teenagers who are visually impaired can play video games because they're embedding sound into the games that reads the cues for them. And also sends out kind of like a sonar sound so they can know which direction objects are. And it's really fascinating. But
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking about, as you're switching here, but I'm thinking
yeah.
about, no, don't, you can switch. That's good.
Yeah.
Go. But I'm thinking about your little fellow, the caterpillar fellow, and how no disability, but just bringing him out.
Yes, absolutely.
And here's yet another idea. We got to bring our beach balls
Yeah,
back.
more beach balls.
Yep. So identifying your feelings, you can put different feelings, words, even. You don't have to do faces. You can do even, different vocabulary for different feelings. But this is, you would catch it and talk about your feelings.
Yep. Yeah. And I did mention, or I think when we were making this slide, I thought about in middle school and some of the new languages they're learning for feelings, and
Right.
putting some vocabulary on here that might represent character trait feelings or characters' feelings, and bigger words that they're learning: humiliation, desolation. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. So this is a study that involved 2,000 students, and that's a big study. If you're not familiar with studies, research, this is a big study, and they were in elementary school, and one of the groups of students actually had art embedded in the content areas on a daily basis, and the other one did not. And so they went through a year long, and interestingly, the ones that were exposed to the arts were better, not just, at the bottom, we're going to get to, they were better at the content area, but they were better risk takers. They were better at collaborating with their peers. It increased their creativity, which we've talked about is super important for that, getting that job later on. But perception, this is perspective taking, problem solving, and self-expression. They were also did better on the content.
Yes.
But I just think all those other things are things that are such an amazing outcome for embedding the arts.
Okay. And we also know from research that it increases student engagement. They have less disciplinary infractions. Classroom behavior is better. Cognitive function, academic achievement are improved. Gross and fine motor skills are improved. And I think because it just makes school more engaging, you want to be at school.
Right.
So it increases attendance and aspirations to go further in their education.
Right.
And as far as attendance goes, I do remember when we were working on James and the Giant Peach, no one wanted to be gone because we were
Right.
practicing every day, and and making props and doing all those things.
So we do have this impact on the brain too.
Mhm.
So, and research tells us this as well. And we did kind of give a little precursor to that at the beginning, but it does strengthen connections. It helps with cognitive efforts. It is to do with brain resilience. It actually does increase memory, which is kind of interesting. It's really the areas of the brain that are touched are visual, spatial, motor coordination, and emotional expression.
Yes,
So
which is great. We also know that studies have revealed that all the brain's chemicals, serotonin, dopamine, cortisol, norepinephrine, I think you got that right, are influenced by student interactions with content and art activities, and it positively impacts their success in the classroom.
And then we've got the idea of gray matter. Boy, these are big concepts, but it does really impact that. The addition of the arts increases gray matter. Gray matter is important because it impacts your brain. And if you have a small quantity of gray matter, they found that can cause things like Alzheimer's, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder. So it really does matter. So if you can do something in your classroom to increase this, I think it's
Yes.
pretty compelling.
Okay. So in the end, all this adds up to improved educational prowess. So we think integrating the arts is super important. So we're going to go through a quick, because just in case you got on Amazon and ordered 10 beach balls while we were talking, we want to make sure you know what to do when they get there. We have a few more ideas that you can use for beach balls and take with you. The first one, the phonological awareness bounce. So if we have any early childhood folks out there, one way that kids can use this is to bounce the beach ball. They each have one, and bounce it for all the syllables in a word,
Right.
or for each of the phonemes in a word. So k, a, t, bouncing it 3 times. We can always do jumping 3 times, but you could also cover a ball with letters of the alphabet, and when they catch it, the one that's under their thumb, they name the letter and give the sound. Halloween time, there are these really fun fingers, like gorilla fingers and vampire fingers and princess fingers that you can, they're just, you can put on your finger. Have you seen
Dollar
that?
store.
Dollar store, yeah.
Mhm.
And those are fun because when you catch the ball, then you have to do the one under that finger. So they know that's kind of fun. Sight word bounce, another easy one. You can put sight words you're working on and make sure that when they catch it, they
I have to
name
push
a
my
word.
way in. Math.
Yeah, and
You
math.
could do math problems here.
Absolutely.
Any kind.
Yep. Put them all over. You could put money on there, and once they find it, then make that money with the change on the, that sort of thing. And this one's fun, Jean. Talk about this.
Well, I love this because 3-dimensional figures are, this is all about balance. It's about science. It has a lot to do with creative and problem solving and thinking.
And collaboration, because you would do this in a group.
You would.
With a friend or a couple of friends, yeah.
Right. So this has just got a lot of implications, and you can write about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody gets the same materials and build something that holds a beach ball.
Right.
Yes. Different problem solving. I love it. And this one is affixes. Then you can combine this with having lists of root words on the board and finding a root word that fits, or for fun, creating some new nonsense words and then make up definition, say what would the definition be based on the affixes that have been attached. And again, this could be made easier or harder for different grade levels. And then this last one I want to talk about, in literature, these are some you can actually order, the main characters, the favorite part of the book. So you pass it around and talk about a story you've read. But you could get more specific, have balls that talk about 2 words you learned, why you liked or disliked a story, main character. I also imagine that you could have a beach ball that just had only questions for setting.
Right.
That words that were learned, clues the author gave, how you knew the setting, which settings different characters were found in. You could have a beach ball that was just for character traits and character questions, and one with plot. So you could
it's endless.
Go a lot deeper with that. Oh, yeah. That was the next slide. I'll go to it right now. So we've been talking today. We're so excited you came to join us. I want to put a plug in for a book by my dear friend, Jean Hearn. This is Integrating the Arts into the Everyday Classroom. It's a fantastic book, has great ideas. If you would like some more, you can scan that QR code there to find out how to order Jean's book. That is just full of wonderful ideas for the classroom and integrating the arts. So I'll leave that there for just a moment, in case you're finding your phone. And I think when this is available on the website, you'll be able to see it, right? Yeah. Okay. And then finally, because we're both here at Creighton, we just want you to be aware if we have early childhood endorsement, and there's information there. If you are interested, we have a cohort beginning this fall. And so the application date is in early June, and it's completely online. So we have teachers from all over the United States who are interested in earning this early childhood endorsement. And it's also part 1 of, if you choose another endorsement, it could be a master's degree when you're all done in just 2 years. So, but this is just it's designed for teachers, it's online, and can easily be done while you are teaching full time.
Correct.
1 class at a time, 2 a semester. It's fantastic. And
it is fantastic.
My friend, Dr. Hearn here, teaches the first class.
I do.
Yeah. So if you're interested in that, please don't forget to check out Creighton University as a way to develop yourself beyond your bachelor's degree if you're interested.
And then any questions?
Yeah. If there are any questions, our friend Bailey is out there somewhere. And Bailey, if you have any other tips that came from viewers, we would love to hear those.
I am here. I'll just reiterate that we have about 6 minutes left for any questions. Feel free to type the questions or your own examples of ideas that were shared from Carin and Jean that you've experienced in your own classroom. Type them into the Q&A box and I can share them, or Carin and Jean can share them, whichever comes first. So I'll give a couple moments for that. And if there are none, then I will close this out after a few minutes.
Thanks, Bailey, and thank everybody for coming.
Yeah,
We're happy to answer questions.
for sure we are.
Oh, and we have part 2 coming in a couple weeks.
Yes, we
right?
do.
And we're just talking about math and reading specifically in our content areas. Yeah,
Yeah.
some more arts. So
Maybe
if you,
science. We might put science in
yeah,
there too.
so if you enjoyed this, we're going to have even more examples. This one is more benefits and why, and we'll really get down to brass tacks how.
Right.
The next one too. Yeah. Please don't forget to fill out your survey before you go.
Yes. Seeing no questions coming in, I will thank you for attending today's NCEA webinar. NCEA continuously strives to improve the quality of our services for our members based on feedback. We will use your input to inform future work and improve services. The survey that I've already dropped in the chat should take about 5 minutes to complete. If you're interested in a certificate of attendance, please include your email address and name at the end of the survey. Since your certificate will be sent via automated email, please check your spam folder if you do not see an email within a few minutes. Once again, thank you, Carin and Jean, and thank you everyone for attending. We hope to see you back for part 2, which I believe is May 16th.
No, I think it's May 8th.
May 8th. May 8th.
Yes.
I was half off math. All right. Thank you. Everyone have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you.
Yeah, you too.